I just cracked. Um, I just cracked an amazing revelationary topic. I woke up and when you have when you have an honest heart, it's kind of hard not to find the truth. That's why I think God gave me this spiritual gift of understanding. But I woke up with a revolutionary or an eye-opening thought. Oh boy, I'm talking about just waking up. I think I need some water. But bear with me, this is, let me grab some water. This is worth listening to if you're a Christian. Now, if you're not a Christian and you probably don't want to listen to this. I mean, you could listen to this if you're not a Christian. If you're interested in truth. This is where I got the truth from. Otherwise, I never would have saw it. Kevin Zadai, I think it was him, Zadai or whatever. I think that's how you pronounce his name. You know, every once in a while I listen to people, and I'm more interested in their revelation than maybe some of their beliefs. Because revelation is a truth, and it has to be decoded. It's not everything about God. Like for everything, God has created everything. Everything exists, right? From spirits, like when you die, we have these near-death experiences of people, you know, out of their body. For example, in this book here, called Imagine Heaven, a blind girl was born blind from birth, dies, leaves her body, and when she leaves her body, she looks down on her body, being able to see for the first time. And mind you, this blind girl, even when she dreamed, she didn't dream visually. Everything she dreamed was about touch and feel because she never saw before. So her mind couldn't conceptualize what it is to see because it never saw before. So this blind girl, she dies. And I haven't read this book yet. That's the way I am. I've read a little bit of it. Probably maybe less than a chapter, I think. But anyway, the one story that I did read was about this blind girl. So she leaves her body and she can see her own body for the first time. She knows it's her body because she has this necklace of some kind, and by feel, she knows what it feels like. You know, feel gives information. Feel is a very powerful informational thing. That's how you know if you have pain. That's how you know if you have a bug on you. That's how you know if you have something on your eye. That's physical feel, but there's also mental and emotional feel, which is a whole nother level of power of things. You know, you hear music and you feel something. So there's two types of feel. But by her physical feel, she knew what it felt like. You know, that necklace. I forget exactly what it was. But when she looked down and she saw that on her, she knew that was her. So she goes to heaven and she sees some interesting stuff and sees for the first time. Then enters back into her body because she had a near-death experience where she actually didn't die. But she sees for the first time. So that's... I forget the point I was getting ready to make now. Wow. Yeah, I totally forget the point I was going to make about this. But anyway, the thing I wanted to talk about was I was talking about Kevin Zadie and how I think he saw elders in heaven. I just barely remember the comment. And he saw that they went around serving people. And me, I know the elders. One of the elders hit him in the chest with this ruby, and it was imparting to him kind of the gift that I have, which is the gift of understanding. Because understanding always leads you to wisdom, and wisdom is the pursuit of truth. Like the definition of wisdom is the power to judge. Like we judge everything. From the knowledge of good and evil, you judge everything. That's what drives us nuts, because we make judgments, and those judgments are not correct. And I see it through everything, through workplace, through relationships. Those are what destroy the relationships, when we make a judgment and the judgment is not correct. Because we believe that it's true, and then if words are either life or death, if you believe a word and it's not true, and you act on that word, you make a judgment and you act on that judgment, then you're going to destroy that thing you judge in some shape or form. And you can spill someone's blood without stabbing them. You know, we get slain every day. I get slain every day at work by people's false judgments on me. And it's mainly at work. It's the killing the messenger. I'm not the person who set up the judgments that these people have to follow. The workplace has. But I'm the messenger, so I'm the one that's killed night and day at this job, because they don't like the message. But it's not my message. But I have to make sure that they do my message. Not their. It's not my message. It's the workplace's message. So there's always a confrontation and drama, and some people just get downright violent because they have a belief system that this expectation from this major company that I work for, probably on the Fortune 500 list and then some, maybe. I'm not that well educated on business I know it's a huge company. Huge. And but they put these things in place, and it's a struggle. Because people come in with this attitude, like there's an attitude of servant today. Remember, John F. Kennedy said, "It's not what you can do. It's not what your country can do for you. It's what you can do for your country." But that's not totally truth either. It's true in the fact it needs to be said to people, but it's both as true. The country needs to support itself because it's a body, it's a living entity, right? And it does do that. But then it does it in evil ways. For example, the information technology thing where after 9/11, they felt it was self-serving of them to know all information, right? So it didn't, your privacy no longer existed anymore, right? Because they wanted to protect the whole, the body, the country. So it became justified to dig into anyone's information. So then, what was the guy's name that went nutso and defected from the country? Oh, I almost had his name, but I'm going blank on it. He went to Russia. I'm sure everyone knows who I'm talking about. But he felt like the country was self-serving, and that it could take this information and use it for evil, which it could. It probably does in some situations, right? But it judges in those situations on whether to probe someone's personal information. It kind of correlates with in the Bible. You see where Noah drinks some wine and he falls over naked, and then he forgets to close his tent door, and one of his sons sees him laying there naked, and then exposes his nakedness. And he's quite angry, and he actually, by faith, curses one of his sons, which maybe destroyed something, right? Created a in his anger he spoke, and by faith decreed something. Christianity is more powerful than whatever anybody can begin to imagine. And it's some of the things are done for lessons to know what you're doing. But I don't want to get into all that. That's a whole other topic. But anyway, when I found out that these elders serve in heaven, and then I got thinking about Jesus. Well, he didn't come here to be served, right? Very, very few people served him. People served him just enough for him. His needs were met. Like, if he needed a donkey to ride on, all of a sudden God moved on somebody and the donkey was there. Or if he needed when he died, a guy gave up his own grave, or I don't know even know what you call them. They're above ground. I forget what it's called, tomb or whatever, for Jesus to be buried in. So everything was provided for Jesus. So Jesus didn't need anyone to serve him because the Father served him, right? And then Jesus was a servant. And of course, why was he a servant? Because he has all power. He had all power. Well, actually, didn't have all power until he died, and then he proved faithful. Then all power was given him in heaven and earth. So he didn't have all power yet until he proved faithful on this earth, which is a lesson for us, right? Because he had power. Obviously, he had power, right? But he was. It was like a dual servant type relationship with God the Father. He was doing whatever God wanted him to do. He was obeying even to the death whatever God wanted him to do, right? Even to the death. So he was obeying, but yet the Father was serving him, and angels would serve him. So what I'm seeing, which kind of blew my mind, is that the elders in heaven are serving. So it kind of woke me up to this servant type thing, and of course someone who has power and resources like God, like Jesus had. He when he was being murdered, he could have called legions of angels. I forget how many legions he said. I think it was some crazy number. So he had the power to do that, but that wasn't. He was serving his Father, so he didn't do that, even though he could have. So it's not like he lacked anything. So what I'm seeing is, if a true Christian has a true relationship with God, they don't lack anything, and that's why they're a servant. So what I'm seeing, from presidents to the Pope to whomever, for example, you don't see the Pope going out and serving people. Like in the Bible, you see the story about the Good Samaritan. We see a religious leader who's so wrapped up in his religious things, which really, when you're a minister, you speak, you get so caught up in the things you're teaching, and that you get valued for those things, just like a teacher is valued for his intellect, and they pay him to actually give him a paycheck to teach what he knows, right? He's a teacher. So they pay him to do this thing. And then he gets a prestige about himself, like, better than now type attitude. Like, I'm teaching the minions, the students. And so you get like a reward from people. They respect you. They sit in your class. They treat you like a god. You don't interrupt them when they're teaching, which is rightfully so in some ways. But then they get an attitude like they're better than someone else. But anyone can learn knowledge, right? It's just discipline and effort and taking the time to absorb it. Anyone can do that if they put their mind to it, right? I mean, really, anyone can if they understand how the human mind works. Like I've cracked the human mind as far as how it works. Most people are way more intelligent than what you think they are. They just don't know how to control their mind. And I'm not going to get into how all that works. But it's not real complicated once you understand it all. Anyone can become intelligent. I just cracked the secret. It's mind-boggling when it comes to the mind. I'm not going to share the stuff at this time. That's like going down another rabbit hole. But what I'm seeing is this servant thing. I'm seeing a lot of these ministries out there. They become self-seeking. It's all about them. Like, they start saying, send us the money. We're the only one doing good, so send us money. But in all truth, if they were really had as much faith in God as they thought they did, they would be the ones that would be sending money to people. If they were really seriously, if they were really in contact with God, then they could feed the 5,000 with nothing. They could get a little donation from somebody, because there was a donation given to Jesus. It was, 5 loaves of bread and a couple fishes or something, and he took that and then fed 5,000. And we do the same thing with our banks, don't we? We give them our money. They actually have our money in their greedy little hands, right? Okay, I attributed them greedy. I don't know if they're greedy. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. we put our money in their hands. They have our money. And they're giving us this thing, if you have a general savings account, they're giving us this thing called interest, right? And they're making a little money for you, but they're taking your money and they're making big money with your money. But because they're making big money with your money, kind of like Jesus that fed the 5,000, took a little bit and then made a lot from it. Well, they're taking your money and they're making a lot of money. And they're giving you a little percent. It's not even, what is it like? I don't even know what it is on savings account right now. Because I don't have one at the moment. And that's okay. Don't judge me. But they're taking that and they're giving you a little percent. Then you got this thing called the stock market where they're giving you more money, but it's more like gambling. You could lose your shirt if you put your money in the wrong place, right? Or you could not only not lose your shirt, you could buy the Microsoft stock and become a millionaire. So it's like winning the lottery if you get in the right stock early, right? So someone's doing kind of what Jesus did. They're taking a little bit and they're making a lot from it. But they're the one that's making a lot from it. It's self-serving, which ties into what Jesus said. Jesus said, you have to deny yourself. So if you deny yourself, what are you doing to be a disciple? You're no longer serving your own self. See that? why would you need to serve your own self anymore if you're really in this? Remember, after John chapter 13, Jesus talks about whatever you ask, God will give you. If you're really in that type of relationship with God, right? I'm not saying I'm anywhere. I'm not saying I've even. Just because I'm saying this doesn't mean I know this or I'm doing this, or because that's not how I work. I get information and then I forget it as soon as I get it. Like I might not remember what I talked about yet today, tomorrow, because that's not how my brain works. And I'm not going to explain to you how my brain works. Now I'm starting to change. It actually happened in October, and I've been trying to transform and change out of the type of consciousness that I live in, which is beyond people's understanding. It's not hard to understand if I would give the information. But there's more to Christianity and everything in life than what you really think. There's more to mental health than what mental people think. There's more to everything than what everyone thinks. But I don't want to get into all that. But what I'm saying here is there's more to this than what you think. So if I'm really a person that's really grounded with God, that means I can ask whatever I want, and it says in the Bible, He will do it. You don't see too many Christians that have reached this realm, right? Why? Because they're still serving their own self. The Bible talks about crucifying the flesh, or really it's more than just flesh. It's the, I don't want to give away secrets, so I want to save some stuff for my books. I'm giving away a lot right now, to be honest. Because there's more to this than what meets the eye. I'm seeing it, and that's why I'm talking about it. But is it going to stick with you? Of course not. Because your nature, it won't stick with your nature because, well, some people it'll stick, but will it really stick? Will it be a transforming DNA? You know, words are life or death. That means a word is a DNA. Let's make sure I'm recording this, because I might have said all this stuff for nothing. I've done this. I've recorded 10,000 things of hours of stuff, and no one's ever heard it. But you get to hear a little bit of stuff that I come up with. I've been releasing more of it lately, instead of just recording it on a tape recorder. I mean, don't do no one good on a tape recorder, right? So my interest is self-serving. I want to write some books. And it is a gift, no different than somebody that is a basketball player. You know, they have a gift and then they get paid millions of dollars, right? Now, we wouldn't judge them, you know, or the baseball player or the football player. We worship them. But if someone has a gift like mine, which deals, my gift is a gift of understanding and truth. Now, I don't know if people value that in this day of lies. That people believe lies. Why? Because it gives them power. We live in an age where everyone in Congress, they're fighting for power. They're fighting for power. It's the craziest power struggle I've ever seen. That's all it is. And that's all everything really is. If you look at it, whether it be Black Lives Movement or even the Ku Klux Klan or the people that enslaved the black man, they wanted the power to serve their own self. The people that created the slavery thing, it was founded on a lie that a black man's not equal to a white man. And then as that lie broke down, they didn't want to admit that the lie was true. First they said, well, these people are They're not like us. They're more savages, and that's why they'll be our servants. They kind of treated them like an animal, like an ox. And it was self-serving. And then all of a sudden they realized that when they let these people be exposed to education, that they were just as smart as they were. So then that broke down the foundational lie of one of the reasons, and they have many reasons, I'm sure, many justifications on why they did what they did. But it was self-serving, basically. And then how do you have power? Now the disease of self-serving is infiltrated Black Lives Matters, and Black Lives Matters now believes in abortion, and abortion murders its own kind. You have football players kneeling because they say Black Lives Matters, because a cop, which is 15 times more likely to be killed by a black man than a black man is to be killed by a cop, black man gets killed, but so they're kneeling for this person that gets killed. But it's okay if 1,000 black babies are murdered every day, because that's serving their own self-needs, right? So isn't that insane that you stand up so hard for the cop that which granted, I know exactly what happens, because I understand behavior. I'm writing books. They're probably going to be on the New York bestseller list about behavior. And I understand behavior. And skin color doesn't create behavior. I can get a suntan all day long. And even my race of people can become black if I go in an area, eventually my skin would turn black and my hair would become Afro-ish. If I lived in a climate for enough time, as enough time went by, well, my skin would adapt. That's called natural selection. To survive, the people that would survive, I'd get cancer if I was in a region, which is very common with my type of skin. But that's what naturally would happen. My skin color would change, because that's what God put in our DNA for us to be able to adapt. A bird does the same thing. A bird has a shorter beak, and flowers have a deeper. Only the birds with the longer beaks can access the deeper nectar. So then the birds developed a beak that was longer. And they say it's natural selection, but I have a feeling it's more than just that. I have a feeling we can influence our physical DNA by a stress release, where somehow that communicates to your DNA. I think it's more than just the fact that certain birds live that can get more food than the others. I think it's more than that. I think there's an actual communication of some type to our DNA. It's more than communicated by natural selection. But of course I can't prove that, but I just have a hunch that it's true. But basically, we become self-seeking in the things that we agree with. So, for example, going back to the Black Lives Matter group, like in one year in 2016, there was an additional 1,000 black people murdered, right? But they looked at the statistics, who were murdering the people. It wasn't the cops, it wasn't white people, it was other black people killing other black people. But the Black Lives Matter don't care. It's okay. Black lives know. If a black life kills another black life, that's okay. They have a free pass. They're not going to kneel at a football game and say, hey, because that's okay. They're not going to kneel at a football game. Like I think in 2016 there were 12 black men that were unarmed that were killed. They were unarmed, right? So there's going to be a percent of people that are going to be killed by cops. You're always going to have this crazy cops because there's some crazy cops out there. Because that's a whole nother social system. So when it comes to behavior, it's always self-serving. And sometimes people just want to do whatever the hell they want to do. Like you'll see, I don't even want to get too deep into this topic. Yeah, I shouldn't even have went there. I mean, if you're gonna do something, you got to do it right. But what I'm saying is, is that when you really get down to it, when Jesus made this statement that everyone's evil, one of the core reasons I think everyone's evil is because everyone becomes self-serving. Everyone becomes self-serving. Whether it be a ministry that wants you to send them money, whether it be the priesthood, the Catholic priesthood, where they protect their own even though there are pedophiles among them. Everyone becomes self-serving and they protect their own, right? Whether it be cops or whether it be even Black Lives Matter group. Everyone has their own interests, right? What they protect, which is self-serving, and in another degree that's important. Like the country, for example, that gets into our information. It's serving the larger good in a sense by spying terrorists, by getting into everyone's information, because the only way you can know what's going on is to get into everyone's information, right? you have to be able to see everyone's information. You have to read everyone's emails. You have to see what everyone's saying. Now you can't. Now they haven't got into our thinking yet, where they can read our thoughts, but I'm sure that's coming too. I'm sure that's coming. It's kind of what a lie detector test does it not? And that's something we've had for a while. That can read your thoughts to a degree. Now some people that can hide their thoughts, that can lie so well, can defeat it. Super sociopathic type liars can defeat that and hide their thoughts and shield their thoughts. But even that is the beginnings of thoughts, and that's not even high tech, super high tech. So it's coming as far as where they'll even be probing our own thoughts. And you've seen in the one movie Tom Cruise was in where they were able to predict your future. There are these people that could see into the future, so then they were going to arrest you based on a future thing you were going to do. So it's coming. It's an interesting age we live in. But what I can't remember the guy's name that defected to Russia, but he felt like the government wasn't right in probing everyone's information, but it's one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't. But then you can take that power, and power can justify doing evil, just like Paul was murdering Christians. He was doing murder, which breaking his own law to keep his own law. So you can have the government who can make a judgment on who lives or who dies, and then you got someone like Epstein, who dies right in front of us, in front of the whole world, and the news media doesn't demand that the truth is brought out on that. Why? Why don't they grab a hold of that bone? The bone that they had before was Trump, and of course the reason that they were challenging Trump is because they're self-serving. They want to be the president. They want to speak and have the president do whatever they say because they technically want to be the president. They think their intellect, they want to call the shots. Instead of running for office and doing like who was it? I can't remember the news guy's name. But from Twitter, he was like trying to be the president of the United States. He was telling the president everything to do on Twitter. It was a news guy. And they think of their own selves as the president, like they put the news out there and they act like they're the all-knowing. They think they're the all-knowing, the news. They're like, oh, we know everything. But in truth, they're not behind the veil. And what goes on in the real White House and the real information that is so shielded from all the ordinary mortals, that they don't have a clue what's really going on. But then they're outside making judgments, acting like they're the president, because it's self-serving. It serves their own ego, in a sense. And it makes them feel that they are the president because it's a feeling of power. They like feeling powerful. They like the glory and prestige that brings toward them. But they're not honoring the position of the presidency, in a sense. They used to do that. The news used to not get in the president's business and respected the office. But now there's no respect because they think they're the office. So they've gone too far. Just like Paul in the Bible went too far and started murdering people. It's a crazy dynamic that we live in right now. But what I was seeing in dealing with Christianity, it's fun. Christianity isn't Christianity. Christianity is about truth, who Jesus is. So when you start finding truth, that's Jesus says, if anyone hears my word and doesn't, he builds his house on a rock, right? But the reason we don't hear the words of truth is because we're self-serving. We're self-serving. And we don't trust God. Like Oprah, for example. Let's go to Oprah. Oprah didn't want to yield to the Bible, right? Number one, the reason she didn't yield to the Bible because she don't have the gift of understanding. Nor does she have revelation. And Jesus specifically says, if you keep my commandments, I'll manifest myself to you, or I'll give you revelation. That means you'll get a deeper revelation of truth. Just like if you look at Jacob versus Abraham, angels would appear before Abraham, and Abraham would talk with them because God trusted him, because God knew that Abraham served God, and it wasn't self-serving. But then you see someone like Jacob, he's self-serving. He steals his birthright from his brother. And does he have revelation of angels right off the bat? Of course not. The only revelation that God can trust Jacob with is a dream of revelation. So he lays down one night in a place he calls Bethel, which many churches are named Bethel. He lays him down in a place called Bethel, and he has a dream. And he sees angels ascending and descending. And he has got enough sense to know that he thinks it's that place. But what he didn't know is he tapped into the promise of someone who was greater than him, called Abraham, whom God actually trusted because Abraham served God. and trusted God and believed God and had a more better heart than him. And but we see Jacob that's self-serving, steals his birthright from his own brother. So he doesn't have that revelation. And finally, when he finally does get in a better spiritual place after reaping what he sowed, he sowed stealing the birthright from his brother, then he wonders why he goes to his relative over here, and his relative cheats and steals from him, doesn't even give the wife that it was promised to him, and he works all this stuff, and finally, because he has the promise, God gives him the reward for all the work that he did, and he goes away with wealth because he got paid by God because he had the promise, not because he was good, but he got paid what he deserved. And then he wrestles. And when he finally does meet an angel, he doesn't trust it because he knows he's not good. He knows he's self-serving. And he knows he's really not good. And then he knows he cheated his brother out of the birthright, stole it from him. So then he has to face his brother. And his brother became very powerful in the meantime. So his brother's ready to destroy him. At least he thinks. And then he wrestles with the angel, knowing he did evil, self-served his own interest, right? So then he finally all catches up with him, and he's about ready to meet his brother, and he knows his brother has the power to destroy him. So then he seeks God with all of his heart, finally does meet an angel, but then he wrestles with the angel all night long because he's really not wrestling with the angel, he's wrestling with his own evil self. Because he can't trust the angel because he knows he's not good. But yet he can't stop his own self from wanting what he wants, right? So finally, he gets out of there, and his brother doesn't destroy him because he gets a hold of the angel, and the angel blesses him, and he gets the promise from the angel, even though he doesn't really trust the angel, which a lot of people think was Jesus, but I'm not for sure on that one. So anyway, he moves on, and then all of a sudden one of his sons say that he's going to be leader over him in a dream, right? His son says, well, he has a dream just like he had a dream. Remember, Jacob had a dream. So angels ascending and descending. So all of a sudden then his son has a dream just like he had a dream, right? And in this dream he sees himself as greater than his own father. And what does his father do? His father doesn't believe that dream. He rejects it, even though that's how he had his first revelation to God, after he stole the birthright, right? So, mind you, this is a guy whose name was changed to Israel, who represents the Jews. And then everyone, says the Jews are self-serving. But then, isn't everyone? Duh. Anyway, we're all the same, right? Doesn't matter who's in power. Doesn't matter what skin color you are. As soon as you get power, you can become self-serving. It's all about you. Why? Because you're not really connected to God. You're not really connected to God. Because if you really were connected to a real power like God, then you could ask and you would have whatever you want. But you're not really connected there because yourself doesn't lead you there. Yourself is always seeking something else. Like this whole thing I got on my board, which just happens to tie in what I'm talking about. Jesus said to the one guy, "What seek ye?" But then what should you really be seeking? The first commandment is love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, thy soul, and thy mind, right? But what do we really love? What is it that we're really seeking? One time I wanted to be a tennis pro when I was younger. I wanted that with all my heart. Oh, no, this was something else. Was it tennis pro or was this about a girl? I can't remember. think it was about tennis, I think. But I wanted to be a tennis pro because I thought that was what was going to make me happy. I thought I didn't want to do a 9 to 5 job. I was kind of like Joe Rogan. Started out with a 9 to 5 job. Didn't want to do it. Thought I can't do this. I'll die doing this. I'll be like Rose in the Titanic, married to Kyle. I'll die if I do this and this zombie type work. So Joe found another way, and Joe's worth all this money now because he found another way. So I wanted to be a tennis pro, and because I thought that was what was going to make me happy. And God came to me. It wasn't a physical revelation, but I could still hear his voice. And he showed a little bit more of a manifestation at that present time, and basically said to me, he said, he spoke some truth to me because that's who Jesus is. That's all he can speak. He can't speak nothing else. So it comes to me and he says, I could hear his voice. And he says, the reason you love these things is because you believe that these things can make you happier than me. And I had no clue. See, I had no real revelation of God. And your heart is really going to chase after what you really think that. Your heart doesn't lie. It lies to you. But stupid is what stupid does. You're gonna do you're gonna chase after like a dog after the rabbit on a racetrack. You're gonna chase after something that you think's gonna make you happy. The mafia does the same thing. Yet the mafia kills its own. And they step out of line. They promise them power, respect, and all these things, but then, just like Malcolm X, when he finally turned against his own when he turned his back on his own religion, they killed him. Same thing with the mafia. Because that's what Satan do. Satan promised Eve, that she'd be like a god. Well, she got the knowledge of good and evil. Now what we judge everybody and everything, and we're all self-serving in that judgment. And we all are attacking each other for power. We're all self-serving, We really are. Because we're really not connected to God. In Genesis, everything was taken for them. They had no want. Remember that David said in the Psalm, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." See, want is a self-serving. That's how it ties into all this. It's funny how all things tie together when you find a real truth. So everybody wants something, right? I mean, I can look at somebody. Oh man, I shouldn't have said that one. Revealing too many secrets. I'm revealing a lot of secrets. Yeah, I kind of already revealed that one. But you can trace somebody's life that there's always going to be a core for every action and word they speak. It all comes from a belief system and a place. And most of the time they don't even know it themselves, right? I'm going to use I don't know. Maybe I should use Donald Trump as an example. Like when you make a statement, I don't know. A statement doesn't lie, right? Now you might believe a lie, and that's why you make the statement. But Jesus said, every idle word that a man speaks will be held accountable in the day of judgment, because in that word that you speak, you have a belief system and you've made a judgment. And it doesn't lie. And God can see the core reason behind everything you say. We think that people can't see that. Just like crooks that leave fingerprints at crimes. Yes, we can see it. Or they leave their DNA. But everything a person speaks has a DNA behind it. Now, you might not be able to see the DNA, just like you can't see somebody's DNA that creates disease, for example. It's hard to find. They're still searching for stuff like that, but it's there. It's 100% in your DNA. And when you do a behavior like from the president all the way down to someone pathetic like me, and yes, I've been pretty pathetic, and I'll admit it. My life's been a disaster. And I know why. And don't judge me, because you don't have the understanding to judge me. Don't make judgments when you don't have understanding. Because this stuff goes deep. This stuff goes a lot deeper than what you think. We're always judging people. You know, I love the definition of wisdom. Wisdom is the power to judge and make the soundest judgment based on knowledge, experience, and understanding. You can't judge people. That's why it says in the Bible you have a beam in your eye when you judge. You can't judge someone unless you have all the knowledge, all the experience, and all the understanding. And only one person has all of that. For example, just to make it simple, not that someone's really going to change their behavior because of some truth I say. To really judge someone, you'd have to see every moment of their life, from the day they were born to the day they die. You would have to see every moment of how every person treated them, and then how that person had changed their mental character DNA, how their parents screamed at them, and every person is inputted that information even before they understand language. That's downloaded into them. And that's why you can learn language by the time you're 3 years old, because all of those actions of the parents, all of that information is just absorbed like a sponge and downloaded them, and then all of a sudden the little kid starts talking, right? Well, he's not only learned your language, he learned your behaviors, the way you treat everyone in this world. The fingerprint of your soul, not only your language, but your soul has been imprinted on that child. And you was busy raising that kid. You were self-seeking. You were trying to survive at your boss and your work that is self-seeking in itself, driving you crazy. You got this crazy boss at work that's just, you come home and you're like, you can't leave your work at home because this boss is just doing evil stuff, and you go to the refrigerator and you just start stuffing yourself with food because you're comforting yourself, or you grab a bottle of wine, or smoke some cigarettes, chain smoke on some cigarettes, or maybe even take some drugs or puff up on some marijuana because you got this boss that's just making your life a living hell, and then you got a girlfriend that, or your wife or whatever, and she has her needs, and she's being self-serving because she was abused when she was a child, and she's got her own issues and needs, and all of this is just clashing together along with your friends that say they're your friends when they're not really your friends, but yet they are your friends in some ways. And then you marry someone like Bobby Brown if you're Whitney Houston, and because he represents power, and she likes that. The fact that he doesn't worry about what people think. But then he doesn't worry about what he thinks. He doesn't care what she thinks. So she marries him because she's attracted to that power, and then it doesn't work. And then they get on a cocaine cycle or whatever, and the next thing you know, she's trying to deal with the fame and all the judgment of everyone. And next thing, she takes some drugs and she falls asleep in a bathtub and she's dead. Or you're Michael Jackson. Everyone out there is judging you, and maybe rightfully so for some of the things you did, maybe. Because your dad wanted you to be a superstar, and like a slave driver, he drove you to be a superstar. You had no choice. He was a slave driver, if you really look at it. And this one guy made this statement, this famous fighter that was on Joe Rogan recently, and I'm horrible when it comes to boxers, but he was just on Joe Rogan, and he said he had to get away from his dad because his dad would have made him a eunuch. Because his dad was so dominating, such a slave driver, and this guy's a black man, he was so dominant that he would have never been a champ if he would have stayed around his dad. So he had to divorce his dad because he witnessed in nature that these squirrels would rip the balls off these other squirrels. They would bite the testicles and just rip them off. He observed that in nature. He was hunting these squirrels as a young boy, and he'd see that he'd find them that they were missing testicles. So that dawned on him that his dad, being a slave driver, wanting him to be a champ, but being so dominant, was going to emasculate him. So you wonder why someone like Michael Jackson, became emasculated. And was even attracted to young boys. That's where he got his intimacy needs met. Was sleeping with children, and namely boys. Now, what happened under the sheets? I think we know what happened under the sheets because, let's face it, if I'm attracted to some hot female, and we get in bed together, I'm going to want to get a little closer to her, especially if we're laying there in bed and we're already half undressed. You know what's going to happen. It's going to go to the next level. Now, you might not want anyone to know what's going down because you think that's right? So it doesn't take too much imagination to come to a reality of what probably happened. Now, was it ever disclosed? Was anyone actually in that room? No, it wasn't. But God knows. God knows. So we're self-serving, and we're self-serving based on the issues that we have from our parents. We're self-serving, right? So I've seen, like I said, Kevin Zaddy said these elders in heaven were going around serving people in heaven. Serving people in heaven, and they're elders. They're these high ups. Kind of like you would see in our Congress someone like Nancy Pelosi actually going out on the street instead of robbing the system. She did something in the system where she made some money and robbed, kind of like robbed the system and justifiably. So she thought, instead of robbing the system, someone like, let's say, Nancy Pelosi was actually out there, actually helping a homeless person. Like these people that say they care about these immigrants that need toothbrush, but are they actually, spending a portion of their time actually helping people in the street? Or are they just in Congress? And I'm not judging them. I don't know what they do. But the truth is, whatever you do is what you do. It doesn't lie. Because inside you're going to seek after what you want. And you don't have to go on the media to announce what you're going to do. If you're doing something, people will see it, right? Because that's who you are. So are these people that are practicing what they preach, are they actually spending an hour of their day helping people out on the street? Or they just want to help these immigrants that aren't even American citizens? And I'm not saying that we shouldn't help immigrants. We should be a country that's so healthy that we can help others. But the truth also is that our national debt, we're bleeding. Every 30 seconds we're going $1 million in debt. That's just like blood. If I'm in the emergency room and I'm losing blood and I'm bleeding out, am I going to go minister to the country or the person next to me? Am I going to help them when I'm in the process of dying myself and losing the power to be able to help that person? So we gotta kind of think of ourselves. And I'm not saying we shouldn't help these people also, but we do really have to think about ourselves. There's a time and place for everything, We do have to think of ourselves, because if we die, who in the world is going to help other people? What country's going to do that? And I'm not saying I don't know what this country's done. Seems like there's some good things in this country, But it's interesting, self-serving. Such an interesting concept. You really can't, unless you're really in contact with God, really, you're going to be self-serving, because that's what happened in Genesis. As soon as they became disconnected from God, they had everything. They wanted more. They got more, but we can't deal with what we got. We got the knowledge of good and evil, and we judge everybody. And this judgment, we're always fighting for power because of this judgment, and we lie to ourselves, which is a little gift Satan gave us in Genesis, if you don't know that. Most people don't. But that's one of the things we do, is we lie to ourselves, because we picked up a little gift from Satan, the ability to lie. We got that seed. I don't want to go too deep into detail and all that. But that's what we got, ability to lie. Then we got the knowledge of good and evil. So we got all this fruit to pick to eat, all these Pandora boxes to open up and eat. And then whatever you eat, you become. And that's why Jesus said, you must eat me and drink my blood. That's why it says in Joshua chapter 1, meditate on God's word night and day, then you'll be successful. That's why he said to the rich young ruler, he said, he exposed this, even though he didn't show the key of it. He said, the rich young ruler said, well, I kept all these commandments from my youth. And Jesus was pointing that out. If you can't see it, which most people can't, he was pointing that out, that the guy was rich because he kept all the commandments, like Job, who was rich in the Bible, who was like a high priest and feared God and respected God, because God is God, whether you respect him or not. But he is what he is. When he said to Moses, I am what I am, he is what he is. So going back to Oprah, she didn't have the understanding of the Bible, which very few people do. I have the gift of understanding, so I could probably understand anything in the Bible. But I don't have a thing called time. I'm working 7 days a week. And there's a way out of this, of my situation. And I'm starting to see it's to stop being self-serving. And one of the things that was my downfall is you turn to sin. Because you get so bankrupt in every way by sinning, like the rich man in the Bible. He was rich. He was a rich young ruler, because we got many of those around, like Facebook, and we got some interesting rich young rulers out there. But he got that way because he kept all the commandments from his youth. And Satan couldn't kill, steal, and destroy in his life. He didn't have access, just like he didn't have access to Job in the Bible. He had a hedge around him. Didn't have access. He couldn't kill, steal, and destroy in his life, because Job was acting like a high priest, which was an image to come in the Bible, where they had high priests which would atone for the sins of the people. Because they're all self-serving, we're all sinners. And what Satan does is he changes our spiritual DNA, that we crave something. The Bible says, love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, all thy soul, and all thy mind. So what Satan does, he started in Genesis. He changed our nature. So our nature that does not crave the things of God, our nature then craves the things that Satan made. Just like Eve craved what Satan offered. Every time you eat of that, like Jesus said, you must eat me and drink my blood. Every time you eat of that, of what Satan offers, you change into his image. And then when you change into his image, you crave that stuff more. See how it works? Because a fruit is a food and a seed within itself. Do you understand that? So it changes your spiritual DNA. You can transform into anything. Satan adored his own self. That means he had self-love for he was attracted to his own self. And I'm just going to let you use imagination on how the DNA of that can alter society. Anybody that has any sense knows that. And you, when you change into this image, you love what you love with all your heart and your soul and your mind. Someone like Oprah says, oh, they're born that way. No, they're not. There's a spiritual force that creates your personality that can go from generation to generation to generation, that all of that DNA that you can't see is embedded into you and creates you to desire certain things. It comes from your parents and your parents. We inherited from Eve and Adam. Adam had a child in his own image. Oprah has a network called the Own Network. It's all about your own image. So she creates a religion, and I'm not saying that she's altogether wrong on this, Because God, I can see God trying to bring all of this, all the people together, and all of these truths. And I'm not condemning her anymore, because Christians are just as guilty. The scribes and Pharisees are the ones that murdered Jesus. When Jesus came, all of Israel was in such a sick shape, they didn't even know he was there. It took wise men from the East. So Oprah's adopted people like Deepak Chopra, Eckhart Tolle, these people that came up with these wise concepts, even though they're not grounded in Christ. They haven't been turned to Christ like the wise men who really pursued truth and found the truth. Deepak Chopra is not, I think he's Muslim, to be honest. I think he's not interested in Jesus, the real truth. So there are wise concepts out there, and I understand how they work, because God gave me the gift of understanding, which they have understanding, but I have it also. And I used to sit there, and God would give me, download information into me, and then I'd go watch Super Soul Sunday, and I already knew everything they knew. Every single episode I would watch, I already got downloaded all the information of what they knew before I ever watched the show. It would happen time and time again. It would drive me nuts. It's like, I already know all this stuff. God already showed me all this stuff. Now, there are some things here and there that were on their show that I didn't know, but it's so easy for me to understand. So all of the things that God's doing, and Oprah, the reason she rejected the Bible is because of the scripture that says, trust in the Lord with all thy heart and lean not to your own understanding. So Oprah didn't understand things in the Bible because she doesn't have the gift of understanding. She has to rely on people like Deepak Chopra, Eckhart Tolle, people of that nature who do have the gift of understanding to explain stuff to her. And that's why we loved Oprah, is because she was honest and said she didn't know certain things. And I still think there's an honesty still there. Even though she's become very powerful and very influential, in all honesty, she didn't plan her life and become Oprah. She had no clue she was going to become Oprah. She was clueless. So that's kind of where her faith in God comes from, because she didn't plan it and make it happen. It happened because it was in her DNA from the structure. Like, for example, her craving for attention was very similar to Abraham Lincoln, who craved attention and wanted to be in something where she's heard and seen. Abraham Lincoln wanted to be in something where he was heard and seen, because his cries as he was plowing fields like a slave and no one heard his sufferings, he wanted to rise up out of that. And that's what makes a lot of people, from Hitlers to well-renowned people, or from comedians to whatever, they want to get out. They want to be seen and heard, and that drives them to a type of success, to be seen and heard from people. See how long I've recorded here. I don't want to waste too much more time. I'm not wasting time, but spending. Better word is spending time, because I am spending time. I can't say this is bad. But Oprah became, when you become rich and powerful, you become just like Solomon became self-serving. And then he turned, right? Started listening to the voice of his wives. So everyone hears some sort of voice that's self-serving. And Oprah, because of her, she didn't have the gift of understanding, and of understanding the Bible and God. She doesn't have that understanding. She has an instinct where she can sense God, but Sensing God and hearing God's audible voice is two different things. I've heard God's audible voice. Can Oprah say that? I don't think so. Has Oprah seen Jesus in a vision? I don't think so. I have. I've seen him. And I'm glad I've only seen him as little as I have, because I was so messed up. And God has to judge you based on your revelation. If you have the revelation of angel, he's got to judge you like an angel. You can't give forgiveness of sins if you have revelation. But God gives you enough revelation that you will make walks toward him. But then Satan downloads all this stuff in you that you become self-serving. And you become self-serving when you live in the ghetto and everyone's shooting at you. Everyone's trying to kill you. People kill you for your tennis shoes. They will kill you for your tennis shoes in the ghetto, right? Now, when someone does something like that, you're going to become self-serving. And if self-serving is to carry a gun, to protect yourself and shoot somebody, well, yeah, you're going to do that. Because you're bankrupt. You're in a horrible society. You're in a war zone. You're in a place that cops don't want to go. And then when cops do go there and shoot someone, then there's going to be black athletes kneeling because you killed one of them, even though they can kill 6,000 of each other or 1,000 a day in abortion. They don't kneel for them. But if the cop kills one, well, then they're going to kneel. Because they're in a power position and they're self-serving. They want to weed out any corruption in the police. They want them to be perfect. But yet they're not actually doing anything because they don't know what to do to help these people. It's a mess. And neither do the black leaders. They don't have a clue what to do. And first of all, they have to admit they're killing each other and they're a mess. And they are. I've been a mess in my own self. And I didn't even know it. See, when you're a mess mentally, you don't know it. Then you know, you're trying to get ahead. So we persecuted this person called Permit Patty. Permit Patty was just an American citizen. You know, and I guess she was in an office. I don't know the exact story, but this little girl was just screaming. And that can drive you nuts. It's like Chinese torture. You know, just a drip of water can hit you, you know, drip, drip, drip. And after a while, you get caught, you get triggered. If you're an emotional type person, you're like, this ain't right. This person's screaming, screaming, screaming. And as an adult, your kid, you shouldn't allow your kid to scream in society, right? And there's nothing wrong with the kid. The kid has to be told by the parent. But what does the parent do? The parent pulls the black card and the kid card and destroys this person. And right, the person got in a psychological place where they weren't thinking straight, because you finally snap after something's been torturing you for so long. I mean, in Chinese torture, drip, 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 you finally can't take it no more, and you confess the secrets of your government because you can't take it no more. And the same thing happens when somebody's, maybe maybe your life is in a stressed place, because everybody has stress, and you're going through some bad things, and people think that other people don't go through bad things. Everybody goes through this bad stuff. Everybody's trying to make it in this world. So, you know, somebody's screaming, and they shouldn't. No, people shouldn't be screaming. Kids shouldn't be screaming out of control, even for that. So what does she do? She destroys this girl. Instead of reasoning with her, of course she's not going to reason with her, because she doesn't come from that type of thing. And obviously the girl itself wasn't that mature in herself. And we've all lost it in those situations where someone's driving us nuts, and if we were honest, we've all done that, where we've made bad you go and they don't give you the right order at McDonald's when they're working at a job where their boss don't give a crap about them and they're working short and they give you the wrong order and you go in there and you rip them a new asshole because they forgot your French fries or something. But you think you have the right to go in there and rip them a new asshole because they forgot your French fries and you drove home and your French fries weren't there, right? So you think you have the right to go in there and just rip them a new asshole because they forgot your French fries. We've all done things like that. So this Permit Patty, I mean, you destroyed her. You nuked her. Countries have nuclear bombs. You nuked this girl, and you thought that was okay. Instead of admitting that your child should find another way to sell the water instead of screaming, instead of being mature, you didn't choose that way. You chose to nuke her and destroy her, and you did, probably. Did she really do anything justifying to be nuked? I mean, if the police came, so what? If you're doing wrong, well, the police will sort it out. If you were actually in the wrong, the police will sort it out, right? Now the police would just come and simply say, well, yeah, you shouldn't be yelling, and okay, big deal. But if you're actually doing something wrong, well, you'll get arrested, right? So what's the problem with the police coming? If you can't solve a dispute, you need someone to solve it, right? So what's the big deal if the police do come? Well, if the police aren't going to handcuff the little kid and throw him in jail. The police are going to see the situation and say, well, yeah, you shouldn't be yelling. So what's the big deal if she did call the police? So you nuked this girl. You destroyed her. All because you weren't mature enough neither one of you were mature enough to solve your issue with one another. And most people are not mature enough. And that's why you got to call the police. You need someone with a mature perspective that's not wrapped up in emotion, that's not seeking to destroy each other, that has some civility to their thinking. So yes, call the police. Now, if the police do something that's out of line, well, then that's when you go to the media and let them sort it out. But going back to Oprah, she became self-serving. She didn't understand these things, but she didn't have the gift of understanding. So she believes in God, not so sure about the Bible. But some of us do know, And if you want to know, Jesus says, if you keep my commandments, I will manifest myself to you. I've had plenty of manifestations when I was younger in a better place. Satan lured me into a worse place, but then because Satan lured me into a worse place because of the spiritual DNA that was downloaded into me that I didn't know was there, God gave me the gift of understanding to get me back and to be able to understand things that probably a theologian wishes he understood, would never admit he doesn't understand. But the bottom line is in that situation, let's say with Permit Patty, it says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Now, neither one of you did right there. She said she's going to call the police on you. But then, what other option did she have? You probably resisted what she asked you to do, rightfully so. You're the parent. You weren't even the parent, but you were the one that was supposed to control the child. That was your responsibility to teach her, and you taught her how to destroy other people instead of doing to others as you'd have them do unto you. Is that what you want someone to do to you someday? Is destroy you, nuke you? Because that's how it works. And then the media just jumped on it, and the media, go to the media. Why go to the media? The media jumped on it and didn't sort the thing out. It's pretty amazing. I'm just amazed at everything, but not in this day and time. We live in what's called the me generation, the self-serving generation. You know, have you ever watched the movie Private Ryan, where the guy says, "Earn it"? We don't live in a society where we feel like we have to earn the right to be in this country. We live in a society where we feel like it owes us. Horse shit. No one wants to serve their country. I mean, we don't serve the country. We want the country to serve us. And that's why a lot of people get angry at people on food stamps, and they have that attitude. But what they also don't understand is that people can get in a mental place where they can't help themselves. I've been there. It can happen to anyone. And I know exactly how the mind works. I'm probably going to write a book that'll probably be worth $1 million on the New York Times bestseller list as soon as I unveil what I know. Because it's some powerful stuff. It can change anyone's life. It's even changed my pathetic life. And it's pathetic because I couldn't control my thoughts. I mean, I could control my thoughts. Like, I could not have a sexual thought about a woman because I was a Christian. And I could go I could go years without having a sexual thought about a woman. Because I felt like it was a sin. So I could control some things. But then other things that I didn't know were bad, like worry and fear, I couldn't control those things. And I had no clue I was supposed to. I let these things dominate me, and I still don't have a perfect handle on these things. Maybe if I had a perfect relationship with God, but then now I have this gift of understanding where I feel like I want to share stuff. So instead of praying, I'm sharing stuff, which ain't a bad thing. It'll all work out. But I do have to get off here. But Oprah, well, let's face it, we all become self-serving. That's why the elders in the Bible, everyone's self-serving, and we can't see it. We think we have a license for certain self things, right? We think we have a license to be self-serving at certain times. But God doesn't say that. And then if you reap what you sow, too. No one gets away with anything sooner or later. Like, I've just recently listened to something on Sid Roth about a guy, just this recent episode, there's a bunch of ministers in hell. The guy saw all kinds of ministers in hell. And I'm starting to see why. I think he didn't reveal the secret why they were in hell, but I think I see it. They become self-serving. Even ministers that preach all the time, want to be valued for their message, that becomes their God. Their self becomes their God because they love to preach their message, and they love the fame and respect that people give them because of their great message. And they're chasing that, and they don't know it. they think they're doing God's will by preaching His word and His message, and they are preaching His word and His message. But then it becomes a god to them, the fame and the respect that they get. And then they start thinking of themselves as a god. Whenever anybody can have truth. If you can lead a person to find the truth with God, instead of the glory coming back to you. You know, in heaven, I've heard stories in heaven where everything, all of the praise of the gods circle around and rightfully goes back to God, right? It's you'd have to listen to some of the stories that I've heard. I recommend listening to a guy named Henry Groover on Sid Roth. Just type in Henry in the search engine and his name will come up. If you can't, because I can't tell you how to spell his last name, but he's a great man of God. And Christianity is a very deep, interesting thing. Like when you die, all of a sudden, all the truth about the reality of your life is going to appear and be present and judge you. You're going to see it clearly for the first time. I guarantee it. You'll know what you did. Even though you can't see it now, you will see it. It'll be there and it'll speak to you and you'll know it's the truth. Even though you're not admitting it in this world. And we have the DNA of Satan, which he created the first lie and he spread that to us. And we have the ability to lie to ourselves. And then people would say, well, what about you? I can already hear your voice. You're saying, you're probably lying to yourself. No, well, he gave me the gift of understanding, which is like blaspheming the Holy Spirit. And I'm not saying everything I'm saying is perfect truth. But when God does give a gift to somebody, which is a free gift, a gift of understanding, and then when you, in your lying self, blaspheme that gift that doesn't come from me but God, then you're blaspheming the Holy Spirit and the truth. And that's why I think God says that you can't be saved, because and I think it's because you can't come to the truth. Not because it can't be forgiven. It can't be forgiven because you can't never come to the truth. Because you're lying to yourself so well. That's what I have a hunch what that scripture really means, I think. I just have a hunch. I could be wrong on that. But I have a hunch that I think it means that. Because everyone probably has blasphemed the Holy Spirit. I don't know. You know, I don't have the revelation of that scripture there. And I'm not really seeking it. I'm not seeking the revelation of it. I guess I'm just trusting God on that deal. It's just it's not. I can only reveal what I'm interested in. I still have the interest. I have no desire. Just like Einstein, he had a desire to crack. He just got fixated on light, the speed of light, and all those things. And you know, you're gonna crack whatever you. When you have that type of gift, you're gonna crack what you want to crack. It's not that you couldn't use it for something else. But I can only go after what my heart wants to go after. And I have no desire to crack that particular scripture. Maybe someday I will. But right now, the one that is in my heart is this self-seeking. I gotta get off here. Yeah, now's a good time to jump off here, but it's a very interesting concept. It drives us all. And what's interesting is the more bankrupt you get, the more self-seeking you become. The more the crazy old stuff you'll do. I mean, I never stole really from anyone, even though I went through a very impoverished time where I would only have like $1, I would have $3 left, and I'd almost decide on whether I want to buy paper towels or put gas in my car and make it to work. I got down bankrupt I just got in such a bad place. And not just financially, but friends wise and physical wise. My health, I got chronic fatigue, and I need to say had because a lot of these things have changed. My finances are good at the moment. But it's so interesting how the companies become self-serving, and like I'm in a job right now where one group of people are having it really easy, and my job is a horrible job where I have to do 16 things at once, and these other people only have to do one thing at once. And they sit there and don't understand that I can't do 16 things at one time. But yet everyone expects me to do 16 things at one time, which is the selfishness and self-serving of other people. They can't see because of their self-serving mentality. So the so-called customer I have to deal with expects me to do 16 things at once. The people that are above me that could help me don't think about helping me and even though they're getting paid way more than me, and they have full benefits and get big bonuses, they don't care. They sit there and laugh at me. It's someone like me doing my job. Not that they laughed at me. I'm sure they have at times. Sit there and laugh at the person trying to run around with a chicken with their head cut off, trying to do 16 things at once. They sit back and laugh at that. But that's what companies do because they're greedy and they're self-serving, right? I mean, if companies could get away with it, there'd be child slavery in the United States. But then you got people that become self-serving, like these people that work for these car companies that become so selfish and so self-serving that yet they'll criticize somebody on welfare, but then they'll have a job where they can become self-serving. That these people, I've heard stories, they come into work and they could do their job in 15 minutes, and then they'd find a place in the roof of the company and sleep their whole shift. But their actual job only took them 15 minutes or 30 minutes. And they slept in the roof of the company in these major car companies that went under, mind you. And then they wonder why they went under. Then they want these unions to protect them, but then they become self-serving because neither side can trust each other. So then they bleed the company to the car company finally gets in a position with the unions putting pressure on them that they say, well, we're just going to fold up and quit. We're not going to make cars now. We're just going to go bankrupt, and then the Chinese move in, or the Japanese or Chinese, Japanese, or who makes the Camry? Japanese. So then the Japanese, because they couldn't work it out among themselves because they were both self-serving, then the Japanese car company moves in, and then they operate it the way that they want to try to do it, and they have to deal with the American worker that has this expectation, and so there's a battle there, and then they fight against the union, rightfully so. And it's just one big pile of craziness. And it's all because people are self-serving, selfish. And Jesus says, to be a disciple, you have to deny yourself. So then Oprah wonders why she doesn't have, she's always asking people about God. She's never asking real Christians, like people on the Sid Roth show. She's asking these New Age people that are experimenting on the edge of Christianity with the power of attraction and these different things where they're tapping into the truths of God, but not necessarily God, but yet they're getting power by tapping into truths, and they're getting these breakthroughs because they're tapping into truth. Like for example, one truth, Jesus said, if you have faith, you can move a mountain. So these people do this thing, the law of attraction. They put this thing on the wall, and they say, I'm going to get a new car today. And it's actual faith. Or I'm going to get $1 million home. And they put it on the wall. They wake up every day and they see it on the wall, this law of attraction. They think, well, but in a sense, they've tapped into a truth of the scripture. And the Bible says everything that was made by a word, whom was Jesus, which is truth. So they tap it. So everything that was made by the word, who is Jesus, right? So they put these words on the wall, and then it becomes a word of faith. And it starts to work because they're actually having faith in this they call it the universe. Like the universe is just space and time. Universe is actually space and time, which is a seed that God separated from himself, and then it created time and space. Time is not a thing you should worship. Time is death. There is no time in heaven, in the kingdom of God. If you listen to anybody that knows anything about near-death experiences or that on the Sid Roth show that's actually went into the kingdom of God, there is no time. Time is of death. Time is separation from God. So God separated something from him, and it all the nature of it broke apart and created this dimension of space and time. Because it's separated from him. And it's not a permanent place. It's like a temp file on a computer. And that's why scientists say, oh, we live in a holographic universe. Of course it is. There's so much space in between your electron and the nucleus of your atom, it's almost like you're not really there. Of course it's not real. And then when people go to heaven, they say, oh, well, this place is the real place. This place down here isn't. Duh. They go to heaven where energy is actually pure and it hasn't been separated from God. It's still part of God. And they realize, well, this is the real place. This is more real than Earth. And it's like when they come back to Earth, like if you listen to the story of Henry Groover, he says in heaven there's so many more shades of color. So when they come back to Earth, they're like, Henry couldn't even enjoy the beautiful fall. Like we're in fall right now. Henry Groover couldn't enjoy fall because it was so pale compared to heaven. Because this isn't the real place. Duh. What was the point I was trying to make there? So then we live in not only a physical fake place, we also live in a delusional mindset. And what's separated us from Adam and Eve, I showed some of the revelations that I had 40 years ago. I had a time revelation where I tapped into God and time slowed down. And you can look at some of my videos on that. So then I had another powerful time where I connected to God, and time slowed down again, and the person that wasn't a Christian was with me, and they were involved in that time thing slowing down, and he looked over at me and he says, time's slowing down. And I didn't know what it meant 40 years ago, but now I know that in the Garden of Eden, the Adam and Eve who did not have children until the fall, they were like angels, like it says, and the angels don't have children in heaven. Why would they need to? They're eternal beings. You don't need to procreate because you're eternal. You don't die. So Adam and Eve never died, so why would they need to make more children? Then when it says Adam and Eve was the mother of all living, remember Jesus said, let the dead bury the dead. Man, the sons of God saw the daughters of men and they interbred. Then all of a sudden their lifespan, got cut down to 120 years. Why do you think it got cut down to 120 years? They interbred. God said to one group, be fruitful and multiply, which Joe Rogan is always like, oh, we came from chimps. No, stupid. Well, I'm sorry. Joe's not stupid. He's ignorant. There's a difference. Joe's not stupid. I didn't mean that comment. Sorry about that. But Joe, we came from both nincompoop. We came from both. Where do you think our intelligence comes from? Now, they had intelligence also because I think they evolved. The group that he said, be fruitful and multiply, that were keeping the earth, they came together. You know, and yes, they came together because I think God both had a purpose for both. One is the fossil record we see, the other, then there's no fossil record because they never died. They were like angels. Anyway, I have to get off here. But the self-serving thing is very interesting. That's what God brought to me when I woke up. And it came from Kevin Zadai. He had that revelation where he saw the elders. I think it was him. But I'm glad I saw that. Because I should have saw it with Jesus when he was on the earth serving. But I didn't see it. Now I get it. If you really get in the right place with God, you're going to be serving people because you have everything. You can have anything you ask. You have total trust in him, and then you can give. Jesus said, if you abide in me, you can't produce fruit. What is the fruit that you produce if you abide in Jesus? Well, you can raise the dead, you can heal the sick, you can feed the 40, you can feed 5,000 people with 3 loaves of bread. You can do whatever. You can be a servant. That's why the elders in heaven are servants. And even God is serving us, right? That's why we become Christians, because we're bankrupt, we're in bad shape, and we need help. And that's why the Bible says, blessed are those that mourn. Now, someone like Joe Rogan, he's not mourning, right? He's in a dangerous spiritual place. Because he broke through, and I know exactly how he broke through. Because I finally got to that place where I can break through and have my own power and start creating my own wealth. Just on knowledge and understanding of truth, which is a power, just like it's a power to know E is equal to MC squared that can make nuclear bombs or nuclear power plants. Now, we kind of jumped ahead too fast, not knowing what to do. We just looked at the positive side that, hey, this is free energy, but we didn't look at the negative side of the... Isn't that interesting how there's free energy on one hand, but then it can destroy the environment on the other? Isn't that interesting? And what's interesting is how we quickly jump forward, just like with the Titanic. We jumped quickly forward, seeing the gloriousness of the boat, and then wanted the fame and all of the things it can produce, and we didn't test it to see if it could steer properly, or We didn't have radar on it where we could see icebergs, and we got ahead of ourselves too quickly, seeing the good and not seeing the bad. And then the ship sunk, and that's kind of what we did with the nuclear, the nuclear power plants, Cenovas, and we saw the good, but we didn't pay attention to all the bad. We didn't solve the problem before we jumped forward. It's just like all the trash. The Indians kept this land pristine, and then we enter into it. Look at the mess. We can't even eat the fish out of a river. Oh, jobs, yeah. I mean, we throw away so much trash every day that where are we going to start shipping it? The moon? We get so blind and self-serving that we destroy ourselves. We destroy the fish in the oceans. The fish are eating plastic and suffering because of what we do. We're killing and we don't care. And then sometimes I don't know. It's a crazy thing. We pollute the very air that we breathe. We send people to the moon for the glory of it, to be called the greatest country in the United States, but yet we risk the astronauts' lives. And some of them do die. Like the Challenger that in our quest we're an interesting species, but we are self-serving. There's so much more I could say. We have to be self-serving to a degree, at times. I'm not saying you totally let people control you, because government, let's say the people could control the government and said, well, you got to feed us. We're not going to work no more. We just want to lay back and let you feed us. People would just lay back and sit at home and play video games all day long and live off the government, because they're selfish, they're self-serving. They don't have the attitude like President Kennedy said, it's not what the country can do for you, it's what you can do for the country. But it's both. The truth is, it's both. And we all have to be in sober truth mind because if we don't get to honesty, if we don't get honest about all this stuff, if the police don't become honest, if we don't become honest with our own self, if we got to stop lying to ourselves. If we don't become honest, no matter what group you are, whether it be the Ku Klux Klan or the Black Lives Movement, if we don't become honest, we're not going to found that foundation of truth that Jesus said you have to build on the words that he says. If we don't find the truth, we're going to find something else, and it's not going to work. Somebody's going to pay the price. Somebody's going to pay the price. Like in the movie My Private Ryan, people paid the price to save Ryan. There's a price to pay. That's why that we should honor those that were blind and not tear down statues, because that represented a place that we were in. a way that we thought. And we have to learn by that. And we should honor people. Even the people that believe things that are wrong. In some way, we should honor them in some ways. In some ways, you know. I don't think we should disrespect anyone. Even Jeffrey Dahmer, he ate his victims to feel intimacy because he was so mentally screwed up. I think we need to understand people and not look at them like they're monsters, because we're all monsters in some ways. We all are self-serving and destroy in ways that we don't even know. We're not aware of the things we do. You know, the Christians really thought that they were good, that when they crucified Jesus, they really believed that. Booth thought he was doing the country of justice when he killed Lincoln. And even Cain thought that it was the right thing to do to kill Abel. The thing that we're always killing, we don't kill people. Like, you can spill somebody's emotional blood thinking you have the right to do something in a situation. You can spill somebody's emotional blood. I just noticed I've been doing it in my own job. I woke up thinking about how I hurt this person that was really nice. But I had so much pressure put on me on a job, I yelled at this person. And I have to yell sometimes on the job I have. I don't have to yell, but it's kind of noisy and I do have to kind of yell, but I yelled at this person, and I can see where I cut this person deeply. They trusted me. But the thing they were doing was dangerous, and I had to yell at them. It got me in trouble, and it was dangerous on top of both. But did I really have to yell at them? You know, now I'm thinking about it. It's probably because of my own weakness and insecurity, and this job takes every mental fiber that I have to be able to do it. But I have a lot of weaknesses that I have to deal with, figure out, to be able to do a job like this, because almost no one can do a job like this. Just like really no one can really do the presidency like the people expect. Who can do that job? No, not one man can't do that job. Kennedy had it right. Don't ask what you can do, what the president can do for you. Ask what you can do for the president. And it's not the president; it's the country. You know, when Trump says "Make America Great," that's not a bad thing. But people will smash someone that has a MAGA hat. The one controversy that the media blew up, where a young kid had to make America great. Why shouldn't he want to make America great? He's got to live in this country someday. Now, you don't know what this guy believes. You don't know if he really believes in the thing that he wants to make America great, or do you think he's someone that just worships Trump like Trump is a god? Maybe the kid actually can think for himself and really wants to make America great. So then the media just wants to punch this kid in the face. And the kid's not doing anything violent. So we see all this craziness. People just... And a lot of people that dislike Trump is because they use Trump as a punching bag because of somebody in their childhood that abused them. From Ashley Judd, who was molested when she was a child, some male that molested her, to Rosie O'Donnell, who doesn't even like men. She likes women because probably some man in her past, why would she be attracted to men? Probably some man in her past abused her. So it's only normal that she would be attracted to women, and that's rightfully so. And I don't even know for sure. She probably wouldn't admit it. But there's got to be something there. Why would she? There's got to be something there. And I kind of doubt if she'd be honest enough to ever even admit it. But we have to be honest. I mean, all those people that are triggered by Trump, they don't personally really know him. I mean, I don't know. And maybe the president should be a better person than what Donald Trump is, and maybe Donald Trump will become a better person. It's been prophesied that he was going to have a change, and maybe all of this evil thrown at him is going to make him change, make him wake up. Because you can't think that you're better than other people. He doesn't understand. I've been working on the breakthrough of the mind since my mind, men are not prisoners of faith, they're prisoners of the mind. And I didn't know the mental health issue that I had of ADD. I didn't even know I had ADD until 2008. And then I thought, well, maybe there's some more to this. And it's more deeper than what you can begin to imagine. That's why I think a lot of people in prison have ADD. It's more deeper than what you think. It's deep. It's there's an understanding that I have about it that I gotta open the world's eye to this stuff. It's more powerful than what you think. And there's even spiritual forces attached to it all. Powerful spiritual forces. Things that people don't even begin to understand. Even Christians don't have a clue. But it's an interesting thing. And I found that if I can put my mind in a Trump state of mind, which in a sense is, you would almost say sociopathic, but you don't have to be a sociopath to put your mind in that state of mind. You can do it without being a sociopath. So I've learned to put my mind in that state of mind, and I could go into work without a sleep. And then before I leave, I went into work without sleep, and I was exhausted. I thought, I'm not going to make it. And I shifted my mind into this state of mind. And by the time I left work, I was booming with energy. So I understand why Donald Trump only needs 4 hours sleep. Because it's the way he thinks. Because your mind pulls more energy than what you think. Plus, there's a spiritual ramification to the thing. There's spirits that attach themselves to a word. Like Jesus was the Word, and the Holy Spirit totally infiltrated him, and he was energized by it. But also the other works is you have a negative word in you, then demonic spirits, which you can't see, are attracted to you, and they roost in there like birds. They roost in, they live in your spirit because it's a place of rest for them. Just like a bird that rests on a tree from flying. These demonic spirits will rest with you because that's a place of rest for them. Remember when Jesus cast them out of the man that had legion, 1,000 demons? And they wanted to go they didn't want to go to hell, so and him being amazingly merciful allowed them to enter into pigs. And the pigs, being far more sane than a human, would rather commit suicide than have those things inside of them. And then we wonder why people commit suicide, Wonder why people take drugs, and then Christians judge the people that drink and take drugs and smoke pot. But anyway, I don't have time to talk anymore. But hopefully I can, I forget stuff so quick. I'm like the guy in the Green Mile, he has like in the guy in the Green Mile, he healed, I remember he healed Tom Hanks of his urinary tract infection, and it's like he totally forgot. The next day came by, and Tom Hanks said, thank you, and he said, for what? He didn't remember that he healed him of his urinary tract infection. And I can speak stuff like this, and and go on some other deep thinking and not even remember what I said. That's and I want to take all this stuff that I've recorded and all this stuff that I usually don't share, and I want to digest it so it becomes a part of my DNA and of who I am. Like God says, I am what I am. And I don't even know if I can go through everything I went through. It'd probably take a lifetime to go through everything that I've recorded and filter through it. And what's interesting about things is if you don't value something, like we've in our society, we value the singers and the football players. I see people at work just constantly talking about football. They all worship football. But then you got cops out there that are go through so much crap dealing with these crazy people. And they are crazy. They are crazy. It takes one to know one. I was there in that state of mind. So don't sit there and say to me that I don't know that you're crazy. You are crazy. You are messed up and you don't even know it. Those people that you're dealing with, those cops are dealing with, those are some nutsos. Those people are so screwed up, it's unreal. And I know how you think. And I even got as sick as some of those in my thinking. Because they're far worse. They're bad. Those people are bad. They're really sick on a mental level. They really are. Very sick. And it just comes down to they're very selfishly self-serving to the point they'll kill each other and not think twice about it. They'll steal someone's tennis shoes and think that they rightfully, that's theirs. That's how sick you are. And God knows all this stuff. There isn't anything that God doesn't know. He knows what's going down. He knows how you got that way. He knows it all. Guarantee me. He spoke to me in an audible voice twice when I was young, and it took me 40 years before I could understand why he spoke what he said. Twice he spoke to me in an audible voice, and it took me 40 years to grow up enough to understand myself enough to know why he spoke what he spoke. So it's beyond your understanding. And he's a God. Of course his thinking is deep. He understands everything. He totally had total understanding of me on a psychological level when I was 20 years old. Total understanding. I'm talking about total understanding. Absolute understanding. He could see in a moment of time everything that I ever did, everything that ever happened to me, and you can't do that. You can't even watch one person's lifetime from beginning to end because it would take you a lifetime to watch one person's lifetime. Don't sit there and say you know something when you can't even watch one person's life from beginning to end and then judge them properly based on how they act. And then even if you watch their life, who says that you have the mental ability to judge what they do is right? You'd have to be the top psychiatrist. So we got the news out there playing psychiatrist. We got the news playing governor when the news doesn't know a damn thing. It never doesn't have a major in psychology. Doesn't have a major in spirituality or theology. Atheists like Peter Jennings was. And then you got these people thinking they're the leaders? Give me a break. And I'm not saying some of these people aren't intelligent. But just because you can spell right and cross a T and dot an I because you're educated doesn't mean that you know what truth is. That you're not self-serving. Anyway, it's time for me to get off here. Yeah, it's time for me to get off here. I gotta start having a little time to pray. I got things to do. My life is a mess, and it's just going to be built back one little step at a time, you know, inch by inch. Like what's that guy's name? I can't think of his name. Steve Harvey. Kind of one of the tweets I had favorited before Twitter banned me. And in a sense, I'm kind of glad they did ban me because I was caught up in that evil. I get easily infected by evil, and I was caught up in it, and it was turning me into their image. That's what evil does. But anyway, I gotta get off here.